Okay. Love that pump up music, Mike. And we're back. Hello, everybody, and welcome to PTZOptics Live. Today, we are talking about the CARES Act, but even more than that, educational funding that is available generally for technology. There is going to be a massive shift in the way education is delivered in the future. We have a panel of guests that are joining us. Thank you, everybody. Hi to my co-host, Julia, joining me via Zoom. Hi, Julia.
Hey, Paul. Hi, everyone.
So tell us again, we're going to jump right into this. What is the CARES Act?
So we've learned for sure that, digital learning is going to be here to stay, right? In some form or fashion. So the CARES Act stands for the Coronavirus Relief and Economic Security Act. And this is something that earmarks $30.7 billion under the Education Stabilization Fund. And this is for states to spend on education, including $13.2 billion for elementary and secondary school education relief, and also $14 billion for higher education emergency relief. So obviously that can encompass a lot of things, but we're specifically going to hone in today on remote learning technologies and digital education.
I'm so excited for this. We have been going over a lot of different versions of tech funding and educational technology. If you're here in our Zoom meeting or you want to join our Zoom meeting, you can go to ptzoptics.com/show to get on our email list, because it's password protected, and that's something we've talked about on this show, the importance of really password protecting. In a past video, we talked about the state of remote education. It's really in flux in a way, and it's accelerating way faster than I think most teachers and administrators thought possible. And my hats are off to you. I want to cover just our upcoming schedule here. If we're lucky, Rebecca Jean Baptiste is a grant writer and government specialist, government funding specialist. We're hoping that she'll join today. And then on, yes?
Yeah, we have her. I believe we have Rebecca.
Are you here, Rebecca?
I think she has just joined us. So
yes, hello everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thanks
Hi,
for
Rebecca.
being here.
Hi. Good afternoon.
You're going to do the heavy lifting for us, Rebecca.
Because okay. How exciting!
She should be right on this.
She's on
she is?
You're on the front. You're on the front lines.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about, and I still have your feed in the background, Paul, so I'm sorry I'm talking over you, but I'm excited. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, Rebecca.
Sure. So I work, well, first let me start with giving you a little bit about my background, so that may be helpful. So basically, I had worked in government for over 15 years. And after the end of my last project was a time for me to just kind of examine where my next move was going to be. And at that point, I decided to really take everything that I've learned and know about government, both in terms of my working with the government, but also I had by then gotten a master's in public administration, pursuing a doctorate in public administration, taking that wealth of knowledge and expertise and offering it to nonprofits and for-profit organizations so that they can expand their market and revenue stream to also work with the government. So really, that's kind of how it all got started. It's just with that need of wanting to offer those services to the government, to nonprofits and for-profits to offer their services and their products, or to just kind of help bring in funding to support a specific mission-focused area that serves populations that need underrepresented population or certain areas in demand. So that got me started. So I work as a consultant with various organizations at all levels in terms of helping them just do business or increase their flow of funding and revenue sources from funding sources.
Fantastic. And I would imagine that in these last couple of months, you've really seen a surge in in need for that sort of, funding for your customers, your clients.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's kind of both ways. So the past couple of months, government on their side have realized the need that's out there and the need to have additional funding that's available for for organizations of all sizes. So there's more funding opportunities that's been made available. And then on the other hand, as businesses have to close down and organizations having more, resources that they are in need of, they have also offered, they've also been in need in terms of searching for additional funding streams and additional ways that they can bring funding into their organization to bring stability and help them cover losses of revenue or added needs that they may have.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Rebecca. I'm gonna lean on you for most of our funding and government funding technology information during this presentation. So
Sure.
I'll let you guide us on this. But our upcoming schedule today, we're talking about
Thank
funding
you.
for education. Next Wednesday, July 1st, we'll be talking about the state of online worship. And then July 15th, we'll be going to the Presence Summit. This is a full day of professional development that you can sign up for free to get a free pass for this. And it's all about online communication. So I highly recommend that you check it out. July 22nd, the Worship Summit will be coming. And then July 29th is the Worship Summit. So that is the PTZOptics upcoming schedule. To invest in yourself and your professional development as an online communicator. We're all doing so much online. We really are excited to be bringing this to the world. And we're partnered with Joseph Pine, the author of The Experience Economy, Fatima Doman, the author of Authentic Resilience. And I'm just so excited to be bringing this together. In fact, I'll be presenting from my book, The Online Meeting Survival Guide, which you can get for free at ptzoptics.com/book. Also, if you go to thepresencesummit.com, you can actually sign up to win a PTZOptics 20X USB camera for your classroom. And second prize actually wins a HuddleCam HD Pro. So check that out as well. It's a great chance for you guys to pick up some awesome technology. Now, I wanted to start with this. And Julia, this came from the Chronicle that we looked at, and we got that information. This is telling us, and maybe Rebecca, you could chime in on this too. This is telling us what administrators plan to invest in. And right now we're seeing that 70% of administrators are actually investing in training for online teaching, technology, Wi-Fi, virtual courseware, laptops for students. Are these the kind of things that you're seeing out there?
I'm wondering if Rebecca's internet froze. I think we might have like unstable.
Yeah, I missed some of that. Can you please repeat? I'm so sorry.
That's okay. So we're just going over, these are some of the things that administrators plan to invest in. 70% of administrators plan to invest in training for online learning. 38% plan on investing in technology, Wi-Fi, virtual courseware, and laptops. I'm guessing these are some of the things that you're seeing being approved for funding.
Yes, when it comes for the type of funds that are being funded or have a specific attention to at this time, it's really anything that can support distance learning, that can support, when it comes to healthcare, telemedicine. So anything in that matter is supported. So it can go anywhere from like Zoom subscription and be able to host these things online to the actual computer and hardware that are necessary to be able to equip the organization to be able to continue some, again, it could be multiple fields. So depending on where that focus is. But it provides for the funding for both hardware, software, licensing to help support those new expenses so that it can support the new way of doing business.
And with that, we're trying to provide solutions to some pretty big problems here. Here's a couple that were noted in the Chronicle of Higher Education. 60% of instructors said that students lack access to technology or Wi-Fi that was a challenge for their remote learning. Roughly 37% of instructors said they were challenged with the technical obstacles, including being unfamiliar, and sorry, this is cut off, with learning platforms. So it makes so much sense that administrators are investing in Wi-Fi, remote hotspots, and of course, training. Our local university here, Westchester University, recently announced that they will be resuming classes in the fall, but they'll be transitioning to remote learning starting Monday, November 13th. This is just an example. All office meetings will be held via Zoom. All non-instructional faculty and staff meetings will be held from Zoom. So it's a big shift. In an upcoming webinar, you'll hear from some teachers who have been nice enough to share kind of what's going on at their college, including Rosemont College here. But
and Paul,
yes, please.
If you don't mind, I was going to also add. So when it comes to higher ed, there are funding that are specifically allocated to certain students who may be low income, underrepresented, who now that they're home, they don't have the necessary resources to continue to do the online learning. As you say, even in the fall, there's even more preparation to continue with this distance learning model. So there are additional funding that are allocated for Pell qualified students, and the institutions receive those funds based on a certain formula that is being used based on the number of Pell students that they have. So so you have the support going to the institutions themselves so that they can up their infrastructure to provide the distance learning, and then you have additional funding going to the students so that they can get the support so they can themselves get the resources that they need to be able to receive the online learning.
Yeah,
that's such a great point that Rebecca mentioned, the equity of experience and the fact that there are so many people just without the proper access, right, to internet and things like that. So, I mean, that really became apparent, and there's been numerous articles about it since the pandemic, just about that lack of equity among students throughout the country. Some are in areas where they have great access and others in underserved communities may not. So that made a big difference.
So going over the specific funding opportunities here, there's three main organizations in our presentation today. One is the Office of Educational Technology. The second is the U.S. Department of Educational Funds. And the third is actually going to be a collection of other federal funds that are available. The U.S. Department of Educational Technology, it develops national educational technology policy and establishes the vision of how technology can be used to transform teaching and learning and how to make it available everywhere. So they're involved with K through 12 and higher ed. The CARES Act, which we mentioned early on in this broadcast, is funding to support remote learning. We also have discretionary grant funding opportunities and then department funds to support connectivity. And we'll look at the one that's specific to internet access. So Julia mentioned this in the beginning. This is the biggest one on our list here. The CARES Act, $30.75 billion. And there's a lot of flexibility in how the funding can be spent, including to support technological capacity and access. As Rebecca said, hardware, software, connectivity, instructional expertise to support remote learning. And this goes from elementary to secondary to higher ed. And it's really a full, a very powerful package. Rebecca, do you want to maybe go into this a little more in a little more detail?
I'm sorry for the delay. Yeah. So with the CARES Act, what it has done, it has provided funding in two ways. One, there are new funding that are new dollars that are being allocated to, support a lot of the projects. But then in a way to make the funding, the access a little bit faster to organizations, they have reinvested a lot of the dollars in existing funding, Title 7, Title 3 programs. So that way the funding, these organizations can basically get a renewal, but it's more of an automatic renewal, and then added funding to these various programs so that they are able to do more. So again, with the CARES Act, with the $4 trillion that Congress passed back in late March, a lot of the funding from that also went to higher ed institutions and also went, to support distance learning and online programming and support for the low-income students, underrepresented students, so that they can, avoid access issues as they're dealing with this new model.
Now, there's another one that maybe you can fill us in on, Rebecca, which is discretionary grant funding opportunities. And there's a full list of these at the Department of Education. Each fiscal year, the department's update its forecast for funding opportunities, and you can go to the Department of Education's website to learn more. Rebecca, if you're a teacher or an administrator trying to help your school secure some of these fundings, obviously they can reach out to you. What do you think that they should start with?
Yeah, so when it comes to grants, there are a few ways on how grant decisions are basically made. So some grants are formula-based. So I talked about before that some of the institutions, they will get a certain number of grants based on the number of Pell students that they have at such an institution. And then you have those grants that are discretionary grant funding opportunities. Mostly with these grants, it's an opportunity where there is a funding opportunity announcement that is posted, and then the different organizations that are eligible would submit a proposal. And then that proposal, once submitted, they can, go after, based on certain criteria. So usually they will list the evaluation criteria that will determine who meets a high enough score to then be able to receive the funding. So if you are an organization and you're looking for these grants, the best place to go search for them is on grants.gov. Because that is the central portal for most federal grants. So as you just talked about, you listed, two different federal agencies, plus additional ones that are from multiple federal agencies. So the best place to start from, if you're K-12 or post-secondary, go to grants.gov and put some keyword search and see what grant funding opportunities may come up as available. Definitely pay attention to the date, because if something is already past the due date, you don't want to put too much time into that. But anything that is currently available or even forecasted, those are the ones to start planning for and go after those type of funding.
Now, the next one here is an important one. Julia touched on this. There are funds specifically to support connectivity. And you read in the news, this is one of the biggest problems with distance learning, is that there's a very large population, segment of the population, that doesn't have good access to broadband and internet connectivity. So there's a specific grant just for that.
Yes, absolutely. When it comes to connectivity, so I think early on there's a digital divide that exists in throughout the country, and mostly when you go through the rural communities, that's even a larger issue. One, because there's just the connectivity does not exist, or it's just in a way that excuse me, that's not really accessible. So because of that, and especially with the way things have turned with, COVID-19, there are funding that are specifically addressing that. So I would say look for, things that are specifically for rural, and I should say there are a lot of grants that not only are trying to respond to COVID-19, but are specifically targeting rural communities. So if you are in one of those rural communities, definitely look for funding that are specifically for your area. And when it comes to connectivity funding, not only there are lots of funding opportunities there from the government, from the federal government, but also look at what is going on the private sector, especially with those corporate companies that are in that area. They oftentimes will have some grants or some ways to give access to connectivity to ensure that they are decreasing the digital divide. So, whether it's Comcast or AT&T, they have existing programs for students to help them, with giving them, cards, the broadband cards that they can connect to. I know Google has programs that they work for school to provide Chromebooks. So there are different programs to really help support certain populations to help decrease the digital divide.
Very interesting. Thank you for filling us in there. And then there's other funds as well. So we talked about Broadband USA. There's FCC, the E-rate program. There's the USDA, distance learning and telemedicine grants that are available. So there's quite a lot here. Broadband USA has their own website that you can check out. Do you want to say something about these FCC E-rate program and the other program, the USDA distance learning programs?
Yeah, I know for the FCC, they've gone through a few rounds of funding so far. The last time I checked them, I think they were either on the fourth or fifth round of funding. It's a very straightforward application in a way that you first check to make sure you're eligible. And then if you are an eligible organization, there's an application that you complete. You get an answer rather quickly on that, to let you know if you're moving forward. And then, based on that, you get some funding to help you with those connectivity and subscription hardware connection costs to support your program. So definitely a really good one to use and go after with the FCC program. I know it was first served. I've not checked it in the last couple of weeks. I assume it's still open and they're still taking on new application, but definitely one that's worthwhile to check on to make sure that you can still have access to these fundings. And they're funding millions of dollars, so worthwhile, absolutely. With the USDA distance learning and telemedicine grant, again, that's another good one. This one is specifically for rural communities. As I was mentioning before, there are grants that are not only targeting COVID-19, but they're also targeting rural areas. They understand that rural communities have some unique issues that they're dealing with, and that's a really good grant that's targeting those communities to really help them purchase. And those funds are specifically to purchase equipment, purchase software, ensure connectivity, and so you don't have like personnel costs or anything like that on there. They're specifically targeting distance learning and telemedicine. So that's a great grant. There is a cost share piece to it. So they do want non-federal funds to match those, but compared to just kind of the whole budget is kind of very small comparing to that. So that's a great one to go after, whether you're in higher ed or in health.
Now, we're getting a question coming in from Kenny Hampton, and he's asking, is the CARES Act targeted at public schools only, or are private schools included as well?
Most of those are not only targeted to public schools. So there are some programs. So those programs that I talked about that are continuation programs that they're either extending the time or adding more funds to. So those who already have those funds, they would be the ones who are qualified to or eligible to receive them. But the new programs, the discretionary programs that Paul had on before, they are absolutely open. They, if you meet the eligibility criteria, like the USDA one you just put up, if you're doing distance learning or you are providing telemedicine, that's what they're looking at. And then most of them, of course, you're a nonprofit 501c3. and you meet those eligibility criteria, that's fine. So they're not only for public schools, they're open for public or private.
Thank you for that. That's good news for, I think, a lot of people who have private schools. Now, what does all of this mean going forward? This is something that really caught my eye. This is the biggest relief act, largest one-year federal funding infusion since the Great Recession. So this also includes $6.2 billion for each institutional support and emergency financial aid for college students, $1 billion for minority serving institutions, $350 million for colleges most affected by the pandemic. So this is a lot. And so I wanted to just talk a little bit about some of the things schools are investing in. One of them, Rebecca, you mentioned this, is Chromebooks. And I have a Chromebook. I love it. It assumes that the students have access to internet connectivity, but these are great questions. These are great products, right? These are great for students to learn with. So
absolutely. I mean, Chromebooks, I don't know if they're doing a lot of those right now, but I know even while school is in session, iPads or the screen to, for the teachers in the classroom to make learning more engaging. So all of these are different type of technology. So the big thing is, how do you marry the technology in support of education? So anytime you're going after the grant, so you have to start with the kind of the higher level of just the goal and what is the objective of that particular grant. And so based on how you set those goals and those objectives, then you determine what are the strategies that you're going to use and the activities that will be completed. So technology is a great tool to help support whatever those goals are. And so once you kind of marry the need to these resources, then it opens the door in terms of what you can purchase, what's allowable. Again, you want to look at each grant to see what they allow and what they don't allow. However, it really leaves the opportunity based on the program that you are designing for your organization or your school to see what the materials and the equipment that are needed. So with if it, most grants that are, distance learning based, they obviously have a big, heavy reliance on technology. And so those are allowable. So you would determine just kind of what do you need and what you don't have, and would request funding and kind of create a technology plan around that and request funding to support it. Did I answer your question, Paul?
Yeah. Oh, yes, it certainly did. And Julia sent me a little list of some of the things that are being approved. And Jefferson County Public Schools in Kentucky is doing some simple things that are interesting. Disposable masks for every student, mass quantities of hand sanitizer and gloves, and then thousands of laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots. So these Wi-Fi hotspots, they're spending this is just one public school, $870,000 for those, $550,000 on Chromebooks, and $347,000 for printing and distributing costs for paper learning materials, so they can get those materials out to the students. Nearly $370,000 for iPads with internet built in. So you can have Verizon iPads, for example, that are available. $2 million for network infrastructure and security updates, and $3.3 million, which, if you notice, is the biggest part of this, for software to support virtual learning. So there's a decent amount. Actually, $12.3 million is actually the biggest item here for disposable masks, so that it's enough for one child per day, and that one per child per day. Hand sanitizer and things of that nature. We wanted to mention that our company is supporting local schools and colleges and universities, including Indiana University of Pennsylvania, Case Western Reserve University. We have an auto tracking camera that is great for lecture capture, along with our PTZOptics cameras for putting PTZ cameras into the classroom for capturing videos of professors. So camera technology is something that's being put into a lot of different classrooms. The HuddleCam SimpleTrack 2 is an auto tracking camera from our sister company, HuddleCam. And I wanted to share this simple photo from, this is from XKeys. And this is a teacher at their desk with a laptop running Zoom. So Zoom would have the students on there. And what they're showing here is that you can put the camera in the middle. And that allows the teacher to really have good eye contact with the students. And we showed this off on our last video. This is the Zoom for XKeys, XKeys for Zoom controller. And you can see here, number 5 is funny. If you see number 5 on this, it's a box. And it just raises the monitor up a little bit so that the monitor's at the right height. So the teacher, when they're looking at the students, can maintain eye contact. And then that little XKeys controller there actually is able to do everything in Zoom for you. So, as a teacher, you're focusing on your work, you're trying to do different things. This actually allows you to put Zoom in full screen, change it between speaker view and grid view, actually communicate and record. So it's a really nice little tool we wanted to share. Past week, we met with Drake Finney. He is a high school teacher from Havasu High School. And in the Nevada Havasu Lake area.
Lake Havasu.
Lake Havasu. Thank you, Julia.
Right.
That's always tough for me to say. This is him. I just wanted to share a few slides because he's really a power user when it comes to educational technology. He makes it really fun. He uses a green screen. He uses a virtual set. And it makes it really fun for, I think it's his 4th grade students. This is a document camera. So this is a camera that allows the students to really see his notes and what he's doing, working on the same worksheets that they're working on. That really just helps them to stay engaged. So that's a really cool idea. So that is our presentation. We made it. Now we're going to open it up to Q&A. Congratulations, everybody. If anybody is in here in our Zoom session that wants to ask questions, we're going to open it up to you guys along with our live viewers here. So going back to some of these questions here, Angel is saying, our kids' school district provides a Chromebook for every kid for remote learning. So Angel has many of the funding for that probably has come through some of the funding here. Kyle Gunderman also saying they distribute Chromebooks to students to enable distance learning, and they're doing that this spring. Joe Black saying our school district has given every student a Chromebook for the last 2 years. So these Chromebooks are definitely a pretty big deal. Angel saying that their school systems do need more camera technology, and I believe that's in the classroom that she's referring to. While the Chromebooks is an obvious first step, I think that a lot of classrooms and places are not yet equipped with easy-to-use technology for teachers to record their lectures and get that video content onto their learning management systems. And Joe Black saying that was a neat document camera. Thanks for chiming in, everybody watching the live stream. Is there anyone here on our Zoom call that has a question that we can answer for you while we're here, while we have Rebecca, Julia, who's been learning about this extensively and has children, and they are students though, right? They're your students.
They are. They all have Chromebooks. It's funny that you mentioned that. In fact, our school district, this is just sort of an interesting aside. Rebecca alluded to this. There's funds everywhere, right? Well, we're in the Coatesville area school district, and it does have, there is an area of there's, a sort of an underserved community in Coatesville, but T-Mobile has actually donated for this past school year all the Chromebooks. So it was over $1 million investment, and T-Mobile that came through T-Mobile.
Absolutely, and all my children have Chromebooks as well, and they also have Microsoft. I guess my school district has some arrangement with Microsoft, and they also have the Microsoft applications on not only the Chromebooks that they have, but also to add it to additional computer devices that they may use, so on their phones and other platform. So there are definitely a lot of ways to support schools and technology, and certainly look at those technology companies and reach out to them to get this type of support as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And, this is not incumbent upon the teachers themselves to try to reach out and get the funding. I mean, we're certainly going to help to guide schools and administrators however we can, especially with respect to the technology and the learning aspect of things. But teachers themselves, they wouldn't necessarily be out seeking the funding, but certain schools have development offices and things like that. So, it's really a team undertaking, I would say.
Yeah, I agree completely. It looks like we have a couple chats in Zoom. David saying the school district where we are has Chromebooks for 2 years. However, we have few cameras for teachers, so we're getting that a lot. So I guess that's it for this show. I want to mention that you can go to PTZOptics.com/cares. And Rebecca, why don't you tell everyone how they can get in touch with you if they need a little bit of help getting their funding approved? What I could do as well is include Rebecca's contact information in the blog post. Rebecca, you're muted. If you're with us and you want to give us your contact information, feel free to do that. I almost forgot, we've got a giveaway to do. Thank you, Michael, for responding. We've got a giveaway that I think some of you guys might be waiting for. So we got to do that. You can go to PTZOptics.com/giveaway to enter really quickly. Here we go. I'm going to start pulling winners, so it's not too late to enter. I'm going to pull a winner. Let me know if you're here watching on YouTube or Facebook, and I will say hi. And just say hi. Just be like, hey, it's me. I'm here watching, waiting to possibly win a PTZOptics camera, a webcam, lots of awesome opportunities to win. So I'm going to pull a winner. Let's see here. Who do we have? We have Chris Zanowitz, and I know he's here because I heard him I saw him on the YouTube. So Chris, are you here? And getting a couple more things here. Angel saying the new HuddleCam 4K would be a great option for a document camera or just the teacher's example. You can zoom in with it, and it does have a tripod option. So that's an interesting idea. Let me do some testing on that and see if it's available. Kyle likes the HuddleCam Go for meeting rooms and maybe even some classroom environments. Chris Zanowitz, if you're here, let us know in the chat. Okay, he's here. Hi, Chris. Chris is with Wizard Broadcasting. All right, Chris, we're going to spin the wheel for you. Here we go. Let's bring it up. Okay, right here. You already had it set up? All right, let me put it back. You want right here? Is this where you want it? Okay, go ahead. All right, there we go. All right, Chris. Let's see. From Wizard Broadcasting, let it spin. Here we go. Spin again. Oh, very close to the PTZ camera too. Woo! All right, let's spin it again.
Oh, that was a good one.
That was a good one. All right, here we go. Chris has won a camera in the past. I think he won a Z-Cam in a past show, I remember. So we're decking you out with your studio, Chris. Here we go. Spin again. Oh my gosh.
3 spins in a row.
3 spins in a row. This is crazy. It was so close to the free PTZ twice now. Michael's going to have a heart attack. Oh my goodness. Woo-wee. It's got to be free PTZ this time. Just get ready for it, Chris. This is it. You can't get that close 3 times. Okay, camera light. All right. You win a free camera light, Chris. Send me your information and I will send it out to you. You have my email address. We're buddies. from NAB Show. Woo! That was fun. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday. Don't forget to sign up for the Presence Summit. It's going to be so much fun, and it's a full day of professional development for online communications. There's 20 days left. You can win a free camera. So let's do this together. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Bye, everybody. Take care.